Us now is John Bussey. He is the assistant managing editor and executive business editor for the Wall Street Journal newspaper, which is owned by our parent company. And John, really the same first question to you as with Jonathan, because you talk about Israel making threats about Russian arms shipments to Syria. How did, in your estimation, does that escalate this?
Well, it escalates it because both sides now are talking about funneling ever more sophisticated weapons into a very dangerous spot in the world. And the Europeans and the Americans are looking at this and say, okay, well, how do we get some kind of advantage for the rebels that we like as opposed to the rebels that we don't like? Remember, there are Islamist extremists who have funneled into Syria who are fighting Assad. These are people that the Europeans and Americans do not want to get weapons. So America and France and Britain particularly are saying we want to get Assad to the bargaining table, but we have to give some leverage to the rebels. That means if we signal that there might be more weapons coming to the rebels, that gives them power at the negotiating table. But the reality behind that's really tough because the Americans and the French and the British are having trouble finding the right rebels to get the more sophisticated weapons too.
How do you get Assad to the bargaining table, John, when he's got the firepower, when he's got the bigger guns? I mean, what is he going to go to the bargaining table for? If he knows that he can outgun the rebels for the next couple of years, why would he say, okay, let's talk about this?
Yeah, and that's the biggest concern to the West, particularly if this air defense system is put into place, which would preclude any kind of no-fly zone creation or would make it a lot more difficult. And the French are saying, and the Americans too, that, well, one thing that could counterbalance the fact that Assad is using his air force more effectively now against the rebels are shoulder-held anti-aircraft missiles. Well, how do you get those to the right people and make sure that they don't get to al-Qaeda-linked groups that could use them not just in Syria, but in some other theater as well?